I don't know whether you've heard of the name Eichmann. You know, he was one of Hitler's, main man, during the Holocaust. And what his job was to transport people so they can be exterminated. They can be. And there's a reason why I want to talk about this. When after the whole thing blew over and he was put on trial, and they asked him why he exterminated many of the Jews. His explanation was he was just doing his job. He was just doing his job. That's it. For some strange reason, the international community expected some explanation. They expected him to say maybe he did not like them, or maybe they did something to him, or, they expected some elaborate explanation why he did what he did. But he said that, well, it was his job to take orders. So they gave him orders, he took the orders. His job was to transport them. And because of that, many people lost their lives. When we use that word, I'm just doing my job, sometimes that word is a very, very dangerous word. Because sometimes it makes us do something that is unethical. We do this thing because we are doing our job. Let's say, for example, you are working in the police, you are a police, and you are torturing a suspect, which happens in Nigeria, and you realize that maybe this person is innocent, right? But because your superior has told you to torture the person and get a confession out of him or her, you keep doing it, even though you know that what you're doing is wrong. But because you are just doing your job, because you are following orders, you do something that is very unethical, something unethical. It's also the same reason, why, let's say you're working in the service industry, and you know that this oil you are using to cook for customers, is unhealthy, is not good, is going to cause some health crisis. But because you don't want to be that person that says, oh, this is wrong, you don't want to be that person that rocks the boat, you don't want to be that person that speaks out, you just want to follow everybody and don't ruffle feathers because you just want to collect your salary. You do it because you are doing your job, you are taking orders. So this whole I'm doing my job becomes an excuse for you to do something that is not even ethical, simply because you are doing your job.